This video will describe Chapter 4.5, Solving Two-Step Equations. So keep in mind now what we're going to do is start putting together a bunch of the steps that we've been taking in the past. So the first problem would look something like this. 3a plus 9 equals 33. And again, the goal is going to be to isolate the variable, get the a by itself. So the first thing I want to do is subtract the 9. Okay, now a lot of people end up dividing 3, and in this particular problem it actually would work out okay, but it's going to be easier for us to deal with the constants first and then deal with the coefficient, as opposed to dealing with the coefficient and then dealing with the constant. Okay, so first I'm going to end up getting 3a by itself, and then I'm going to end up getting a by itself. So when I subtract the 9, this goes away, so I'm left with 3a equals 33 minus 9, and this is 24. So now I have 3a equals 24. Again, my goal is to get a by itself. Currently I have 3a by itself, so I need to get rid of that 3, which means I'm going to divide a 3. Right? Since this is a multiplication problem, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. This cancels out, so I'm left with a equals 24 divided by 3, which is 8. Now again, and this is where it's even more important, I can take this 8, I can substitute it back in up here, and I can make sure that this works. So I would go 3 times 8 is 24, 24 plus 9 is 33. So I check my answer, and it's correct. Alright, now let's talk about what happens with subtraction and obviously some of the negative numbers. So this is going to be 9 minus t equals negative 34. Again, what I want to do is get the t by itself. I'm going to try to isolate the variable. So keep in mind that even though this is a subtraction problem, this 9 is positive. So the opposite of positive 9 is negative 9. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. This cancels out. But here's the trick. A lot of people just end up putting a t down here. It's not a t because this is a negative, right? So we want to not think of this as subtraction, but think of this as a negative t. So I end up having negative t equals negative 34 minus 9. This should be negative 43. Right? So essentially it's going to be 34 plus 9, and then we keep it negative depending on how it is that you see this problem. So now the problem is that what I don't have yet is t by itself. So a lot of people leave the answer here, but your problem is that's not what, t doesn't equal negative 43. Negative t equals negative 43. I want positive t. So to figure out what positive t equals, I need to take the number that's in front of the t and divide it to both sides, very similar to what I did on this problem. Right, so in this problem I took 3 because there was a 3 in front of the a, that was the coefficient. I divided this number to both sides and ended up with the solution. Well, that's what I want to do here. So a lot of people forget about the number that's in front of the t, but remember that there is a 1 here, which means that that's a negative 1 that's in front of the t, so I'm going to divide negative 1 to this side, and I'm going to divide negative 1 to this side. Now the negative 1 and the negative 1 will cancel each other out, so I'm left with just t on the left, which is perfect because that's what I want. But now I got negative divided by negative. That becomes positive, so now I know that t is 43. Now this is the type of problem where it's really great to be able to go back and check. So I can take this, I can substitute it back in, and I know that 9 minus 43 equals negative 34. And so a lot of people, if you had made a mistake here, whether you just left it at negative 43 or you forgot to bring this negative down, a lot of people that get negative 43, if you were to substitute it back in, you would get 9 minus negative 43, and the negatives, the double negatives become a positive, so 9 plus 43 is 52, not negative 34. And then you should know at that point that you made a mistake, and you kind of go back and check and see where you think that mistake was. All right, now let's talk about what happens when we have different operations. So I'm now going to end up having a couple of steps here. And so the first thing that I would want to do is, again, isolate the p. And since this is a division problem over here, I'm going to leave it alone for now. I'm going to deal with this negative 12, and the opposite of negative 12 is positive 12. So I'm going to take 12, I'm going to add it to both sides, and I end up with p over 5 equals 32. So now what I need to do is keep in mind that this is a division problem. Right? So the opposite of dividing by 5 would be to multiply by 5. So I'm going to take 5 and I'm going to multiply it to both sides. These 5s will cancel each other out. So I'm left with just a p, which is great. And then over on this side, when I multiply 32 times 5, I should end up with 160. Okay, and so now what I could do is I could take this 160, I could substitute it back in there for p. And then I would hopefully notice that when I divide 160 by 5, I get 32, and then 32 minus 12 equals 20. So I know that I got myself the right answer. And then finally, the last problem I want you to take a look at is this one, and this is one where we're going to have to end up simplifying first. And so you'll notice the first thing I want to do is think about the fact that those are like terms. And so what I'm going to end up doing is going 2x plus x, and that is 3x minus 27 equals 3. Okay, now from there what I want to do is isolate first the 3x and then eventually the x. So the first thing I would want to do is take the opposite of negative 27, which is positive 27. I'm going to add that to both sides. This becomes 3x equals 30. And then from there, I now have 3x isolated, but I want it to have simply the x. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And I end up, and I'm going to write it over here, x equals 10. Now, this is one of those trickier ones where when I have to substitute, I need to make sure that I substitute both here and here. Okay, so there's got to be 2 substitutions. So 10 times 2 is 20, plus 10 is 30. So this is 20 plus 10, so that's 30. 30 minus 27 equals 3. So I know I got myself to the correct answer. All right, that's all we got from this section. Please make sure that you're checking your answers after each problem. Don't forget to do the problems on the bottom of this page. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in class.